Hello everyone, I think we are live. Is audio working? I think audio is there. We'll double check. I mean, inevitably somebody's gonna complain it's too low. There's nothing I can do about that. This is as loud as it goes. Okay, we are good. So if it's too low for you, it may be your earbuds, it may be your device. I know people are like, but other videos are fine. I don't know how to help. I don't know. I check it, it sounds fine. I don't know. Anyway, starting off, we've already got a super chat for the boys. Do you boys want a super chat from Kirsten? She is spoiling you. Thank you so much. So tonight we are going to be working in acrylics, and this painting may go a little bit longer than usual. So I may not have as long for the Q&A after. We'll see. I don't know. Maybe it'll be fast. I don't do landscapes often for these, so I don't really know how long it's going to take me, but I want to make sure I have enough time to, was that very tasty? I want to have enough time to make this really good, especially for those of you who bid on it. So this you can bid over at my website, Lachri.com, if you are within the US. Starting bid is $75. I am working on a Fredrix water, you don't have that camera yet. Okay, let's focus. You go lay down, 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 down. If you are new here, the boys get, whenever I get a super chat, which I don't want to say too, okay, good, they didn't expect one right there. They know that that word means they're getting, whoops. That was a mistake. Anyway, they know that's what I get. I get a word I'm not going to say, super dollars. We'll say that. They don't know the word dollars, and they get treats. So that is how this works. Yes, the belly band is back. Someone peed in the house again. Although, thank God I have tile floors, and he didn't go like near a wall or anything messy, so it's super easy to clean, but someone is not trustworthy. Anyway, let's get to work. So I am working on a Fredrix watercolor canvas board, and just for transparency, this canvas was provided to me by Fredrix. They were already the only brand of canvas I use because I have had so many problems with the crap from Hobby Lobby, the crap from Michaels, the crap from Dick Blake, all those generic canvases. Terrible. I've had too many issues. I'm not ruining work on because they made bad canvases. So that's why I had already switched to Fredrix back in like 2012, I think it was around 2012. So anyway, that is why I work with them. They are the only canvas I use, but the Fredrix or the watercolor canvas boards, they're super, super smooth. The reason that I go with them is that it's going to make it easier for me to blend. So if you're following along and you're using a canvas, even a Fredrix canvas, any canvas that has more tooth to it, some of the blending techniques I'm going to be using are going to be more challenging for you. Yours are not going to be quite as smooth, so don't beat yourself up over it. It may just be the canvas, not your painting techniques. That's normal. You can always take a canvas that has more tooth to it and put a couple of coats of gesso on it and then sand it. Like I usually do 2-3 coats of gesso and then lightly sand it with like a, what is it, 220, 320, somewhere around there. Grit sandpaper. Sand it to a finer surface, and that will help you with getting that smoother blending that you're going to be seeing tonight. So you can see I've already lightly sketched out with a watercolor, a water-soluble graphite pencil. I've sketched out my lines there, and it looks like this may be overexposed. I'll have to wait until I start. Once I get the first layer in there, I can make adjustments as needed if this is too, I don't know, it might be okay. We'll see. We'll have to wait and see. So, okay. Let's see, anything else I need to go over? I'm using Liquitex Basics as usual, and I don't use them because they're cheap. That's just an added bonus. I use them because they're more translucent than like the soft body, the heavy body. They dry slower than both of those, and they dry to a more matte finish, so it's easier to get photographs. It's also easier when I want to use a white charcoal pencil to sketch things out, or if I'm using tracing and transfer paper to get my image like perfectly on my canvas. The Liquitex, it works better for all of my techniques. So that is why I go with them. The colors that I'm using are primary blue. I've got red oxide. I've got Mars black, titanium white, and I also had a bit, I don't know if I'll end up using it, but I do have, I forgot to put it on the canvas, a bit of raw sienna. So let's put some out there in case I need it. Now this is not very many colors, but when you look at this reference photo, which you can download over at patreon.com/Lachri, it's for free. You don't have to be a member to get this one. To get that reference photo, if you look at it, no, two things. One, I downloaded this from Unsplash, but the colors were very, very muted. I wanted something more vibrant, so I threw that into Lightroom and I messed with things. I changed the yellowish tone that I was getting in the sky when I hyped up the color saturation. I changed it more to orange. I did not like the yellow as much. I wanted more of an orange tone. I just thought that was so pretty up against the blue. So this color is really saturated. It looks super colorful. These are really the only colors we need. Now, if you do look at the reference photo, some of the fog looks purple. And that was just because the way I was adjusting my colors it shouldn't be purple. I'm not painting some of that fog purple. It will stay white because that looks weird. But that was just one of the things that happens when you're editing certain colors. Other colors go like too far a direction it shouldn't. But anyway, so that reference photo is available to you. So don't complain that you want it on the screen. You can go download it and make it anywhere on the screen you like. And let's see, I think we're good. So I'm going to start by adding I'm going to do my background for my sky and my water first. I'm going to be using, this is a Taklon Bristled Filbert. This one is a Master's Touch, so it's your generic Hobby Lobby. Now, I don't like generic, as you heard from my thing about canvases, I don't like generic art supplies. I don't like generic paint. I do not like generic canvases. I love generic paintbrushes when it comes to acrylics and oils. For a watercolor, not at all. But with acrylics and oils, you don't need to get these super expensive brushes. It's just not going to make a big difference. So I've got some cheapy ones. I think these were from Amazon. This one, oh, maybe this one's a real one. Worston? Maybe not. I don't know. I don't know where half these brushes come from, but I am a big fan of generic, especially when I don't clean them like this one. I can probably save that one with my brush cleaner, but I've got a few brushes in here I did not clean well the other night. Okay, I'm going to start. I'm using water. Let me see if I can kind of scooch this a little bit. Maybe you can see every time I dip in water. Not really. I can't get it both on. We'll do it at tip. There we go. You can kind of see, so you know when I'm dipping into the water. I'm going to take some water and I'm going to start with my white. And the reason that I'm going to start with white is if I start with blue and I start adding white to it, or actually maybe I'll start with the orange. No, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make this easier for everyone. I'm going to fade from blue to white, and then I'm going to dry it. I'm not even going to worry about the orange. If I fade from blue to white to orange while it's all still wet, it is very, very likely that I'm going to mush my orange and my blue together and get a muddy brown, which is not what I'm going for here. So let's make things easier on ourselves and only worry about fading from blue to the light white, or to light white. That's stupid. Okay, let's grab just a little bit of blue. It does not take much. Look at that, and it's already super blue. Just a little bit out to the side, and what happens if I were to start with blue, a chunk of blue, it is going to take an insane amount of white to lighten that up. So I want to start with white and slowly add blue. I'm going to waste way less paint. So we're just going to pull this in here until I get it as dark as I want. I'm going to keep pulling. A little bit more. And you can do this with any blue. You could go with ultramarine, you could go with phthalo. It doesn't really matter. It's not going to make a big difference in the end. Just pick a blue. Whatever blue you think is pretty is fine. And I'm just going to keep pulling until I get that as dark as I want. And the great thing is, if you look at my palette, see how I've got it fading now from the darker blue all the way up to light. I can pull from this when I'm quickly blending and I don't have time to pre-mix things. Look at how it fades. Dark blue all the way up to light blue. I've got so much to pull from, and that is going to make it easier for me as I'm quickly blending, because with acrylics, we're on a bit of a time crunch. They dry fast. Although I do have my handy spray bottle for water that is going to make my life way easier. Reference photo, as always, is over at patreon.com/Lachri. The link is in the video description. And I'm going to start, oh, that's a pretty blue. I'm going to start with the blue darker up top, and I'm going to fade to white as I come down. So what I will do, I want to mist this so it doesn't start to dry, although I have a lot of water in it already. I'm going to wipe the paint off my brush and reload that. Actually, I'll rinse that off a bit. I'm going to reload it with just white. A little bit of blue can be on there. I'm not that worried about it, but I'm going to reload this brush with white and fade up. Again, the reason I'm not jumping to the orange right now is I don't want to create a muddy mess. Now, I can keep this wet long enough and add the orange and keep it soft, but let's just make it easier for you guys if we do have beginners watching tonight. This is going to make it easier for you not to create a horrible muddy mess. And see how I'm just going to bring these together. I want to keep this straight horizontally as much as possible, even though if you look at the reference photo, if you blow that up, it does look a little bit kind of, there's some lines in there. That's just because of how it's edited. Don't worry about that. I'm going to reload that with a little bit more blue. I've got chunks of paint from my palette there. We'll just scoop that out. Okay. I'm going to leave that alone. Now I'm going to switch over to a mop brush. There are so many videos that use these to apply the paint. You are going to waste a crap ton of paint. It's going to be a pain in the rear to clean. Don't do that. Just don't use those brushes for that. Apply your paint brush with like a filbert, a normal paintbrush. These are for softening out brush strokes. And I'm going to start with the bottom ones, And I'm just going to work this very lightly. I'm not pushing very hard. I just want to, whoops, get rid of as many brush strokes as possible. But the nice thing is if I have any, I put my brush strokes on horizontally, and so they'll just look like clouds. I'm going to wipe some of the paint off on a paper towel because this is starting to pick up paint. Now your mop brush, mine's actually a blush brush because they don't shed like an actual paintbrush. The mop brush, if these get wet, they actually create strokes instead of taking them away. So that's why you'll see me keep taking a paper towel. Actually, I need more paper towels. This one will work. And wiping that off, see how there's a little bit of paint on there? Just want to keep that nice and dry. Oops, got a little bit of streaking in there because there was some wet paint on that. So I'm just going to softly go over that, get rid of some of those streaks. I don't know if it showed on camera because they were pretty light, but that works. Now, I'm going to let that dry, and I'm going to come down and start that on the water. The water is going to take a couple of several layers, but being that I already have this blue out and I want the same blue, although a little bit darker as I get down here, let's go ahead and throw that out there, and we're going to blend the same thing. We're going to go dark blue, and we're going to fade up into white, not even worrying about the orange yet. So let's load that brush, and actually I can load it with even darker blue this time. Scooch you back. Now this time I'm not going straight. I'm following this little upside down U shape, sad face shape. He's sad because he thinks he's not getting the orange paint. It upsets him. The orange is coming, buddy. You'll be fine. One of the things that's a bit annoying about working with a canvas board, so it can be a bit of a challenge, is that, well, I can actually hold it here, but trying to get that bottom, there's not a lot to grab if the whole thing is wet. Luckily with this one, I've got this middle section that is not being painted, so I can just grab onto that for now. A little bit more blue. Now I'm going to wipe my paint off on a paper towel, get as much of that out as possible, and then I can rinse it. Dry some of that off, and now I'm going to go ahead and get some white. This needs to stay wet, so I'm going to lightly mist that with my fine mist sprayer. And I'm going to go ahead and pull this right up to the landmass there. Now with painting like this is a layering process. It is not going to look good at first. If yours looks good right now, you're doing something wrong. We're going to lightly let them blend together. Wipe some of the blue off because I got so much on there. So I just wiped it off on a paper towel on my easel that you couldn't see. We're going to lightly go over this. So see how I'm pulling the blue is getting kind of smudged up? Imagine if orange was there already. You would be making an absolute muddy mess. By letting this dry and doing this as two separate areas, I'm going to make it a lot easier to not smudge my orange and my blue together. Now, if you were going more yellow, that more like the original photo, that would even be worse because you'd be creating green if they mix together. With orange and blue, I'm just creating more of a brown, so it still looks pretty natural. But with the green, it's not the look I'm going for, so that would be even more of a challenge for sure. So a little bit more white. And now I'm going to go ahead and blend that. I'm going to just hold this up here so I can quickly get that. I'm just getting some of these brush strokes out. And I say blend, but blend's not really the word I'm going for. The blending was done with the brush that I applied the paint with. This is for softening out my brush strokes. Okay, let's go ahead and rinse this off. Need another paper towel. And when I rinse this, all I do is rinse the tip of the mop brush and then roll it in circles on a paper towel to dry it so it's ready to go. That's another thing. If you, like when you see these videos and people are using a brush like this and they're doing these circles and it looks all soft, it would look like that with another brush too. Like it doesn't need to be done with that. I don't. They're so wasteful. But where was I going with that? So, That's the thing, when I have to clean this because I'm only getting the tips wet, it's dry and ready to go right away. Like, you just rinse the tips. That's the only thing that should have paint on it. So same thing, I'm going to pinch the paint off of this. This is getting a ton of paint on it, so you are going to go, where should I throw you? You can go on the floor. I really need to put a trash can under my easel. Okay, now we're going to dry this. Okay, next we are going to start with the orange. Now I say orange, but what I'm actually using is red oxide and raw sienna. Orange would be a little bit too orange for me. So this should give me what I want. I do have an orange out if I feel like I want to glaze and make it a little bit brighter later, but I'm not going to worry about that for now. Should I use the same brush? I'm going to go with, do I have a smaller one up here? Yeah, you will work. So I'm going to switch to a slightly smaller, still a tackle and bristle filter. Yeah, keep smiling. That is like the cheapest, straight out of China from Amazon brush. They're fine. Sometimes this part comes off and you just shove it back on, and for the price, they are fine. I don't know if I have the link for this in the video description. And they always change brands. So like, even if I link one of these cheap tackle and bristle filberts from China, well, most of them are made on China one way or another, but these are like the cheap of the cheap. It's still, they're all kind of from the same place, and they're fine. Okay, so I'm going to take some red oxide. I'm going to be mixing some white in with that, and I want to get a peach color. See, this is like insane dark. Actually, I think the the raw sienna is going to help with that. I need a lot. Okay, remember how I said start with the color first and then mix white, or start with white and then mix the color in? This is exactly why. Look at what I've done already. I grabbed the color and it's like, oh, too dark. Now I'm going to move it over here and I'm going to keep trying to lighten it. I'm actually making my life a little bit harder than it should have been. I should have started with white first. Wasn't paying attention to what I was doing. Now, this is getting to be a nice kind of peachy color. A little bit more of the raw sienna. See, if I went straight, you may look at that and think, oh, just use red and yellow, or like a brighter yellow or an orange and yellow. It would be too bold. I don't want it to be that bold. This looks pretty good. I think I like this. So let's go ahead and head back over here. And I'm going to get this a little bit wet because I am working now right on dry paint. And I need this to fade up. So let's go ahead and pull this here. I'm going to take a clean brush with just some white because I want this to fade up. Right, I want to soften that line. And see, now I'm not so worried about smudging my wet blue paint into my orange or peach blue paint because that is dry. And I'll be putting some clouds over that, so that'll soften it up some as well. Oh, do you want to pull this up a bit higher though? I'm being a little too careful with my color. Let's pull that up more. And then into the white. So now I'm going to switch back to the brush that had white, add a little bit more water. Right along that line. See how that softens it? Now this is where we're actually blending, not so much with the tack lumber sold filbert. I'm sorry, the mop brush. I'm going to take a clean brush now. This is just clean and dry, and I'm going to smudge that line out. Just so it's nice and soft, and we can kind of pull it up so it looks a little like foggy little clouds. There, we have our perfect blending without turning it into a horrible muddy mess. Oh, I do need to take this guy. Let's just soften some of those. Okay, now I need to pull some of these. Now this is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to hold off on the water because this is a whole, we've got so much that's going to go on here. We're not going to worry about that just yet. We're going to focus on the sky. So now I'm going to, let's just dry this so we don't worry about smudging it. I'm going to keep it easier. Yeah, I've got a light over the palette. That's why it's so bright. Let's dry that. Okay, let's throw in, we've got to do some clouds. We're going to have, let's see, that mountain. So we're going to have the sun coming up there. We can actually start with that if we want. Let's take a small filbert and just straight white paint. We need a little dot. We'll go, let's see, we're going to have a tree right about here. So we'll do the light right there. And I'm not going to worry about the light coming down yet because the rays of light go down, not so much up. And then let's go ahead and start doing the, come up a little bit farther than I want. Let's wipe some of that. Okay, let's do some clouds. So I'm going to take that same small filbert. I'm going to take some white paint. I'm going to do some, I don't need this to be exact to the reference photo, but I do want it to look a little bit poofy. It's a little bit too much water in that mix. It's too translucent. I have to throw some more paint on there, especially considering I'm going to need to use the fineness sprayer to soften some of this out. Put your clouds wherever you want. And I typically am going to make the tops a little bit more bumpy and flatten out the bottoms some. I'm going to just go right in between the orangey areas and the blue, and this is going to soften that transition between those two. Now I can go back and take a clean brush. I can use that one I used earlier. Just smudge those edges a bit. You have to go quick. If you let that start to dry, they're not going to smudge. I'm going to switch to a slightly smaller brush for this smudging. So there's a little bit of water on it. If you have too much water, it will work like an eraser instead of softening it. And see, I'm just lightly going around those edges. Slightly damp brush. Don't over blend this. This is where most people screw up on, like completely screw this up and make it look like a hot mess, is that they think, oh, that looks so good blended. Well, this area needs to be blended more. And they keep blending and blending and blending, and they make a hot, horrible mess of disaster. It pushes the paint to the outer edges, so you end up with this like horrible ring around it. Don't do that. Just a few brush strokes. I'm going to lighten up a little bit more in here. I've got to be careful because if I keep working this, it's going to start lifting and removing paint because it's starting to dry instead of blending it in or, softening that out. Okay, let's grab a little bit of peach and pull just a little bit in there. Not going to go crazy. I don't even need to blend this with another brush. I can just leave some of these brush strokes showing. Okay, those ones I do want to blend. That's a little bit. There we go. See how just a couple of brush strokes. That's all it needs. Don't overdo this. I'm just switching to another brush to soften that, a couple brush strokes, and that's pretty good. Let's do a couple little guys over here. Starting to dry, so I'm going to add get that brush a little bit more damp again because that's not going to blend with a dry brush. It has to be a little bit damp, but you've got to find the balance because if it's too much water, you erase. It works like an eraser instead of adding paint. Start making some of these a little bit more harsh, standing out some. I'm going to put a couple up here. There's a little bit of peach in there. Same thing, just a little bit of, just soften it a little. Don't overdo this. See, just a few brush strokes is all you want. Don't keep reworking the same area again and again and again. That's where you get that hot mess of, oh God, what did I do? Okay. Now we're gonna need a little bit more white right in here. So I am going to put some just right in there and just soften that out. Let that fade up. Just so that peeks through where I'm gonna be putting trees later. Okay, there is white, a big white poofy cloud on the reference note. I'm leaving that out. I think it looks a little bit weird. It draws attention in a weird way that I don't want. Okay, let's move down onto the mountains now. And I don't need to dry that because we're not reworking that area, so it's fine. So I'm gonna start with the base of the mountains, and I just want these to be kind of messy. It's kind of a dark, okay, do not jump to black. That is just, no. So what we wanna do, there is gonna be black in there, but we're gonna be mixing for the brownish areas, the red oxide and the black to get a really dark brown. But we're gonna start with this light area that is more with the raw sienna. So let's get the light area first. And are you a little bit too big? Yeah, a little bit. Let's rinse this off and switch to another brush. And I will be answering questions at the end of the video. I'm not sure how much time we'll have for the Q&A section. We'll see how long the water takes me. I want to spend some good time. I want this to be really good for if somebody bids on this. And if they don't bid on it, then I can bid on my website for sale. Oh, we have from you heard nothing yet, boys. From Art by MB, I don't know how I'm saying B&B. Loki says, hi to the boys. Painting looks good. Thank you so much. Okay, come get your super chat. Thank you so much. That was good timing. You guys get a super chat. Yeah. Looks tasty, huh? Oh, these got hard. There you go. Nom. Thank you so much. Okay, go lay down. You're good. Lay down. Down, down, down. Slowest race dogs ever. Gibson. I think Gibson's getting back into that, I'll do what I want. Like peeing in the house, not following the directions. Gibson, down. I have to use mean mom voice because he's just going to take his sweet time. Okay. Let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start with this light area in the background. We want this to be slightly more vivid than this. So we're not going to add quite as much white. I want that color saturation to be stronger. I'm going to go with, do I have a small filbert over here? Most of the time, my go-to brushes are going to be filberts. Those are your more rounded brushes. I don't like the flats unless I'm doing more man-made things. They're just too, well, flat. I might, let's go a little bit of white, not too much. Okay. And we've got trees that are coming up with the same color. So I'm just getting the hint of trees. If you saw the video that went up on Sunday, where I was talking about getting the hint of trees, tree-like shapes. We're not really painting in all the leaves. With these ones in the background, tree-like shapes is all we want. You can switch to a liner brush if that's more comfortable for you. I'm using a larger, a tackle and bristle, and just turning it to the side to get the look that I want. But you can certainly use a liner. I'm going to take a little bit of white, a little too much white. Let's lighten this up a bit in the center. I'm going to wipe some paint off my brush so that I can then use this brush to blend it out. More of my raw sienna and red oxide mixture. Kind of an orangey color. See how just getting that hint of trees back there. Now, as I move out this way, we're going to start getting, and that lines up right about there. We're going to start getting into that dark chocolatey brown. We're just going to fade those colors together. And there's a few ways we can get this poofy mix. We can actually keep this wet before we do the fog, or we can just do it brown and make fog over it. I'm trying to think what's easier for beginners. Let's make it brown, and then we'll do the fog on top. Is that easier though? Two different ways. Okay, so I'm going to take my red oxide and some black. Let's get that really dark brown. I'm just going to mix those together. And we're going to do the same thing, but we're coming out from this side. We've got the hint of trees. I need a little bit more water. I'm getting a bit of a dry brush look there because my brush doesn't have enough water on it. There we go. See, I'm just getting these sketchy trees. We want a few to be much taller. Different shapes in there. Some of those shapes are really small. I would want to do with a liner brush if I want to get that much detail. Just kind of sketching up and down. And I'll fill that edge. Now I'm going to rinse out, actually let's pull this down a little bit further while I'm at it. I'm going to rinse my brush. I can use the same brush, I don't need to change. And I'm going to reload with some of my orange or the orange mixture. We're just going to call it an orange mixture. And let's just work in between these two so I get this nice fade. This paint is still wet. If it's not wet, use your fine mist sprayer. And I want those to just fade in between there. And let's grab a little bit more white. So let's grab white with some of the chocolatey brown. So you get this grayish tone just for here. And then we'll be putting mist over it, so it doesn't need to be perfect. This actually gets a bunch of mist. So we'll just leave that like that. We're going to leave that one alone. Now, I'm going to come over here. Let's see, we've got some kind of this same chocolatey color. I'm just going to do this because I'm going to be putting white over it. But I want just a base for that fog. I'm going to do that right along the bottom of this. Let's go ahead and take our chocolatey brown. Need a little bit more black. It's a little too light there. And I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to pull a few more little trees. This side doesn't have as many trees on the reference photo, but I like this look. So I'm going to make mine a little bit bumpier. Now, as I get closer to the sun, I am going to be changing over to my lighter colors again. So down towards the bottom stays dark. We're going to fade that. There's going to be a big tree right there. I'm going to continue this landmass all the way over, even though there's going to be a bunch of trees in front of it. But that way I'm not trying to hide that later. Okay, I'm going to rinse this brush. I'm going to use the same brush. And yeah, the link for my canvas, I can't find the right one. That it's not currently on Amazon. So yeah, they have I think it was a 9x12 they had. I just didn't update it yet. I did not get a chance. Okay, I'm going to use that same orangey color. I'm going to blend that into the brown. I'm going to need to make that a bit darker around it so that my contrast lines, actually, you know what I'm going to do? I changed my mind. I'm doing this different. I'm pulling that dark all the way around because what's going to happen, I want those rays of light to stand out, and they're not going to stand out if what's next to it is not dark enough. So let's just forget what I said and fill that in. We're going to lighten it up in a minute. Get some bumpy trees. Okay. So we're going to leave that. Let's move our way forward to this landmass. Actually, no, we're going to do the white fog first. Am I going to regret that? Probably. Let's do it anyway. Let me dry this. Okay, we're going to take white. So normally you wouldn't do like a glaze or thin a lot with white because it ends up foggy, but we're actually trying to create fog, so let's go with it. I'm going to take a clean brush, some white paint. I'm going to, and this is another thing, you will often hear me complain how much I hate dry brushing. Oh, it's great for fog if your canvas is smooth enough. So I'm going to do little circles. I am dry brushing, look, breaking my own little rules of I hate dry brushing, but I really don't because it's working. And little circles. I don't want much paint or water on that brush, so I keep like when I reload, I have to dab that off there. Now I've got to get it down to straight white at the bottom, so we'll build that up. And some of this will need orange in it, so we'll come back to that. And then this is going to be foggy with orange. We can do that now. We can just white, since that's dry. We had the red oxide and raw sienna. But again, we need the white, otherwise this is not going to work. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to wipe a bunch off on the brush. We're going to come through in little circles. I'll come back through with more of the defined orange after I get some of the white in there. So just creating fog. It's going to look weird at this stage. It's okay. Go more solid where you want it to be lighter later, even though we need to make it more dark orange later, but we need the light under there for this to show up. Make sure some of that dark is showing through. Don't overdo that. We're going to softly go between these two. Okay, leave that to dry right now. And let's see, this is going to be the other mist. Will come back. No, I'm going to do it now. I'm going to soften it now anyway. So I'm going to take white. And we're just going to soften this edge. I have too much white on that brush. That is not dry brushing. There we go. Just so I've got a softer edge that I'm not fighting. Just a little thicker white right on that line so it's nice and soft. Okay, we're going to go ahead and dry this. We're going to make our orange a bit more orange on some of these spots. And we're also, while we're at it, I'm going to take a liner brush now. This one is a number 1 synthetic hog-haired liner. So this is the generic Hobby Lobby. There are not many things I like about Hobby Lobby. This is basically it. They're generic paint brushes. If they still carry these ones, who knows with them. If it's good, they get rid of it. Okay, and I'm going to paint my lines now where my rays of light are going to come out. And they're going to look way too bold because I'm going to go back over that with the orange. But if I go over it with the orange right now, I'm either going to get too peachy, it's not going to stand out enough, or, well, it's just not going to stand out enough. Too transparent, it won't show up. Okay, let's dry that. Now this time, I'm just going to go with the raw sienna and a little bit of the red oxide, no white, because I want it to be really bold. So we'll make a fresh batch over here. More of the raw sienna than red oxide. And we're going to go right over that. I need more water. Now that'll show up brighter than it would have if I just went with the brown. And this can go over the brown too some. I'm going to take that orangey tone while I'm at it, but this is more of a glaze, and make that like nice glow. Okay, we've got the trees, we've got the glow of them, we've got you guys. Let's pull a little bit of these getting a little bit more red as we fade out. Okay, and then we need to get some of the orange glazed into here, so I'm going to rinse any white off of the brushes. I can use the same brush I was using, same paint mixture, just water and the red oxide and some raw sienna. And we are going to pull some of these and just tint that color. This has to be dry. If it is not dry from your previous layer, it will just lift that color off. Very important when you do the layering like that, that those first layers are very dry. See, now we get, and I can go over the brown too with this. What you're really going to get orangey here is anywhere where we put the white. And I can do the same thing. I want to make some of these, so let me reload that brush. Pull some of the oranges in here. Look how pretty. It'll make that sun really look like you're getting more of that glow. I'm going to pull a little bit of that here as well. That will look better too. It looks weird now. When we get that dark tree next to it, it's going to look good. Okay, let's leave that. Let's come to the landmass in front of it. Yeah, I had a feeling this was going to take me longer than my usual painting. But when I saw the photo, it was like, I have to paint this. I don't care if it's going to take longer. Okay, so landmass. brush will work. So we're going to do the same thing. We've got that dark chocolate brown, so a little bit of red, the red oxide is in there, but more black. This one's going to be darker than anything we've done yet. I'm going to let this, oops, I need more water to make that work. This brush is kind of rough. It's a damaged brush, and so it actually works really well for creating a rough edge. And I want it to look like there's bushes and all kinds of stuff in here, so I can let that be a little bit messy on the top. I don't want that so much on the bottom line, not quite as much anyway. And this has to come lower than that, so make sure you're down a ways. Again, this is not straight black. There is red oxide in there to give me a dark, dark brown, so it's not so flat. Not that we won't use black in a lot of this, just not that dark there. We've got a bunch of trees that are going to go in front of this, so it's not going to quite look the same. Landmass flattens out a bit here, and then we're going to have a bunch of trees over there. Now this we're going to flatten out a bit. And then pull that up. And we're going to have some reflection there, so this doesn't have to be perfectly straight, but get it as straight as you can. Make your life easier. You don't want this to be a full-on lopsided look. More water and more paint. And that's going to get really black as we move off to the edge there. I'm not going to worry about a bunch of this because we're going to get into the reflection, which we are not to that stage yet. But now I can see I want the white here to be a lot brighter. So let's go ahead and dry this so I can get that. If I don't dry that, I'm just going to be pulling the black up into that area, which is not what I want. So let's, some straight white paint. I'm going to go right here along this edge. Let's keep it kind of bumpy again. And I'm going to take a second brush that is slightly damp, not much, and I'm just going to pull that up. I need a bit more white paint there. If that previous layer was not completely dry, this technique would just be lifting paint off your canvas, or if you're using crap paint, that'll happen too. Okay. Now this is where it starts looking really good. I mean, besides once we get to the reflection of the water. The trees. So let's start with these ones. Now you can make your life easier if you're not comfortable just putting dark black lines everywhere. You can get a white charcoal pencil, or you could even use a water soluble graphite pencil. And let's see, I want one tree right about here. I don't care if they're exact to my reference photo. I just want to go for kind of close. This one's not quite as tall. We're going to go right there. And then we've got little guys here. I'm just putting lines. I don't want to worry about trying to get the leaves or anything like that in. And then this one is right about here. Actually, this one's a bit taller. We're going to pull you up. I don't even care if my trees end up taller than the reference photo. That's fine too. And then we've got all of the trees over here. Now this is a weird clumpy clump. I'm going to let mine fade out a little bit so they kind of get smaller and then get bigger. I'm not going to go quite as globby as that one is, as the reference photo, just because I think it'll look nicer. Okay, now if we look at our reference photo, again, patreon.com/Lachri, you can download that for free. You do not need to be a member for that one. We've got these more yellowy tones in a lot of here, here, and here. These ones get into more of that chocolate brown, and then we've got straight black over here. So that is what we're going to be focusing on. I'm going to start with the lighter ones first. That's going to make it easier. I am going to use, let's go with a regular Tackle and Bristled filbert. And I need to mix my raw sienna and my red oxide. I need more raw sienna than red oxide here. Thinning that with water. Now my tree stump is going to be more black, but I'm still going to start this with just this lighter color. I can always darken it. I don't even care if it's that straight. It's kind of lopsided like the tree in my backyard. I like the tree in my backyard, so, you know, we'll just think of him as we paint that. Okay, now I'm going to take this brush and I am just barely dabbing to start creating the leaves here. Watch the reference photo. Now, one of the big mistakes I see people make all the time, let's show you, is to take a paint brush. This isn't the same paintbrush, but same concept. They make a line and it's this. This is their tree, these straight lines. That looks terrible. And just lines in general, we don't want. We've got to have overlapping. We've got to have variation in the way these are. Like right now, they're just individual lines. I need to start making sure I am getting overlapped. I will also be adjusting my values as I go too. Right now, we're just starting with the lighter color. Just kind of dabbing. I'm going to push a little bit harder with my brush as I move my way down, which gives me heavier brush strokes. The lighter you push with the brush, the thinner your line is. Harder you push, the thicker the line. And these ones are going to have more of the chocolate brown on this side, but let's just start with the light and we'll overlap that. And that will also allow us to have a little bit of that orangey glow on the outside, which is going to be so pretty. And then we've got over here, same thing. Even though this tree is going to be darker, oops, a little too much there. We're still going to start with the orange, and then we'll put the darker color in kind of inside of the brush strokes we're making. This guy's reaching up more. Okay, and those ones will be darker. And we've got over here as well, and this one's a lot darker than those, but I'm still going to start with this color. See how they start to overlap a little bit? They're not just perfect lines. You want variation here. What happens if you absolutely do this and you're like, whoa, mine are terribly shaped? Take, as long as what's previously done is completely dry and you're using, well, if you're using Liquitex Basics, you won't have to worry about it. If you're using like Dowler and Rowney or some generic crap you got, it may be an issue for you. But you can, as long as what's underneath is dry, and again, using a decent paint, I can take a paintbrush with water and wipe that off completely, as long as I do it before it's completely dry. Yeah, my tree's a little bit bigger than the reference photo. Totally okay with that though. I do want you to be taller though. Let's pull you up a little bit. Okay, now let's use those same colors. So my red oxide and my black and a little bit of my raw sienna. I'm going to throw those three colors together. We're going to start going darker. I'm going to start with you just to be safe because I know you're a lot darker. And he will have a little bit of black. Not too much. Too much paint on that brush. We'll wipe some off. I'm just kind of dabbing. And what happens when I dab, I just start getting these natural, like it looks like little leaves. If you sit there and try to paint all those little leaves, it's going to look terrible. But see what happens too, how many times have I said what happens? I need a counter. And what'll happen is I end up with, because I'm mainly going on the inside of the orangey ones I've already done, this is going to make these look a little bit more glowy, which is what you want since they're being backlit by that sun. We're going to get more solid as we get closer to the trunk. I'm just dabbing here, not pushing too hard. Then we'll switch over to black as we get down here. I actually want these to come out a bit further. Mine's a little too thin. Let's go ahead and start pulling more black into that. But start with them looking a little bit like Charlie Brown, like not all filled out. Go back and add more as needed. If you put too much to begin with, you're going to have a hard time trying to pull your sky color back in. Can you fix it? Yeah, kind of, but just don't do it to yourself. We've got a tree over here, so we're going to get that tree-like shape here. We're going to start getting some little guys in there. I'm going to pull that dark stem up just a bit more. Stick my finger on it so it fades out a bit. I'll probably come back over that with a brown. Okay, let's get the base in here a little bit. Got some other little trees. I'm going to start with those. Those are the darker ones on the outer edge, being that I've already got the darker colors on the brush. May as well start with those. Just need tree-like shapes. Don't try to get these perfect shapes in there. It won't look right. Like perfect little leaves and oh God, do not paint all your branches. I have seen people do that on something this far away. They're sitting there painting every perfect branch with a liner brush. Looks terrible. I don't care how much work you put into it. It looks terrible. Don't do that. These are off in the distance. You don't see that level. Now that's not to say you can't use a liner brush to get this look. I'm just saying don't try to put in all the little branches. This is in the distance. Up here, we can put in those little branches. Back here, that looks weird. These are far away. Got a little tree here. So I've got my brown again. Actually, I need to go, let's rinse this. This is going to be too dark. So let's go look right in here. We've got the little tree. And we're going to go more with the brown again. Oops, it's a little bit too dark. Let's thin that with a bit of water. And I'm not looking at these as trees. I'm looking at my reference photo and looking at the general shape. Because they don't look like trees when they're out of focus. And I think that's where a lot of people have a hard time. They're wanting to force it to look like trees. This doesn't look like trees to me. When it all comes together, your mind is like, oh yeah, those are trees in the distance. But up close, this is a blob. A blob that has too much water mixed in. Let's get a little bit more red oxide in my black and the raw sienna. Dab that on my paper towel because that brush would have way too much paint on it and water. Still a bit iffy on too much water, but that'll work. Now as I get up here, I'm going to stick my finger in it to tone that down because I don't want it to be that dark. I want it darker than what I have, but not that dark. So just sticking my finger in it tones that down just fine. Now, if we look at the reference photo, there's this perfect like little weird square lump there. I am not putting a lump like that. That looks weird. I mean, I can get it more solid, but it's not this weird little shape. And then this last guy over here. This guy's going to start having more dark in it because he's moving away from the sun. Although even that one. This one has dark, but it's more in front. Those ones are farther back. It's just placement difference. come back through with dark colors in addition to these, a few darker blobs. So let's get some more black. I'm just again dabbing this. Okay, and then I want to go a bit darker as we get into this landmass here. It'll have some fog too, but right now it's a little bit too washed out. When you are massing the brushes and the trees, does the larger brushes work better, or could smaller brushes work? You can use smaller brushes. It depends on the brush. Like this one isn't as great because it's a new, like in good condition brush. One that's more frayed is going to work better. It just depends. It always depends on the brush. Okay, and now we've got these guys are just black. So we've got some bigger ones in here. And a lot of this is just more solid, so we can just kind of fill that in first. And again, I'm not going to go as blocky as the reference photo has. I'm going to let mine have a little bit more shape. I have too much water. That's why that's washed out. Okay. Just barely hitting that. If you are having a hard time, switch to a smaller brush. You do not need to use this one big brush. Like this isn't a, this is the perfect brush for doing trees. Any brush you want, it's just that I'm hitting the edge of it and just letting that background show through. That's really important. Then getting variation in these shapes, the branches sticking out. Like I don't want them to all look the same. I don't want it zigzagged. I don't want straight lines going across everywhere. I have to have variation. So some of these are going to be more globby than others. Okay. And then I'm going to fill that in a little bit more solid because I have so much white paint, water on there, not white paint. And I'll still come back through. We've got to create some fog, but I need this to be a little more solid than what I've got. Okay. Now we get to go on to the water. So that is pretty much done in there. We can make little adjustments if needed later. Oh, I'm missing a tree. Hold on. I lied. We're not ready. I need more of my raw sienna and burnt red iron oxide, or red oxide. I keep saying red iron oxide because that's what it is in Pan Pastels. I think with this it's just red oxide. I forgot to give him branches. Sorry, buddy. Again, you can bid on this. The starting bid is $75. Link is in the video description. Oh, I have messages. Are they messages I needed to answer right now? Hold on. Oh, I think I'm good. Although I didn't open it, so it could have just been the first message. Another message is I was supposed to read. Let me know, Nick, if I missed something I was supposed to read from you. Besides the Fredrix Canvas list not being there. Okay. I want this to be a little bit bumpier. Told you this was going to take me longer than usual. I knew I wanted to have fun and really put in a little bit more work. Okay. Although we're not doing that bad. We're at 9 o'clock and everything but the water is done. So, you know, we'll see how long this takes. Okay. I'm going to start. Let's see, I'm going to take my white charcoal pencil and I'm going to draw about where my trees are going to come. so they line up. And remember, when you're dealing with the water reflection, it is not a mirror image. It never will be. This is going to be longer. Actually, how much longer is that? Oh, I have my drawing. I've never used my drawing, but I guess I could be. Oh, I didn't put that part in there. Hold on. Let's see. These are a little bit shorter, it looks like, at least by what I'm looking at there. So you don't need to come down that far. But it doesn't, you're not trying to make every branch exact. You're looking at it from a different angle. You're never really looking at something where it's a mirror. Like, people with bad Photoshop make a mirror image. You can always tell when it's a Photoshop, like, oh, look at the crystal clear lake. They just flipped the image. That never, ever is going to be correct. You're looking at it from a different angle, and so you're seeing the underside of things. So let's say there's a goose floating in the water. You're not going to see the beak like you did when you're looking straight at it. You're going to be seeing the underside of the beak. So you've got to watch that with your photos, because they're not going to be mirrored images. And a lot of the crap that you'll find online, like let's say you're going for something on Unsplash that has a lot of reference or reflections. A lot of those are just fake Photoshop stuff. Something like that, maybe not that far down. And then I've got those. Okay. I'm actually going to shorten those a little bit. So let's see, we've got, how do I want to do this? I'm not going to do wet into wet for a lot of this. I think I'm going to start by putting the orange where it's going to go approximately. No. I just keep it wet. Let's do it this way. We're going to go a little bit different. So I'm going to be using a lot with my fine mist sprayer. There's so many different ways to get to the same end. That's why you see me constantly going, do I want to do it this way or do I want to do it that way? I'm trying to think of what's the easiest way for somebody who might be new following along. So what I'm going to do is keep this wet. I'm going to start by getting the reflection loosely in, but I'm going to keep that reflection kind of wet through this. So let's go with the black. Actually, no, we're going to start with the orange, same as we did before. So we've got the raw sienna, red oxide, whatever, and some water. And we're going to keep you kind of wet. Not so wet that this is super runny. And it's already at kind of the super runny stage. Whoops. Keeping that loose. Again, we're not trying to copy every branch. You wouldn't even see it from that angle anyway. We know we've got a lot of this orange as we come down through here. Now, let's see, we've also got a lot of this orangey tone in here. I'm just going to map that out. And let's get into the more dark. So we're mixing brown with the red oxide and black to get the brown. There's like different things that are just a lot darker that don't necessarily make sense. Please stay wet. What I'm doing will make much more sense later. I don't want to go all the way to the orange. I'm going to be using fog in between this, but I may as well get that brown in now. And let's go darker. And see how I'm being much softer with these? I'm not getting like the really defined trees in there, but please don't dry. Let's get the dark in here too. Remember, this is all a layering process. If you're trying to make this look perfect right now, you are not going to be happy with it, well, anything. Gibson agrees. He just moaned. A little bit more black. Okay. While this is wet, a little bit wet, I am going to take this guy. You have to be so careful with this. And I am just going to slightly smudge these up. Now this has a little bit of black. I'm actually not going to risk that. I'm going to switch to a clean brush for this area. Needs a little bit more water. And I'll have to pull more orange in a lot of this, but this starts building up my, like, the pattern of the reflection. And just lightly going through there. Okay. And that I just smudged. That was what I did not want to happen. So I need to erase a little bit of the black got in there. Just wet brush, water, and I'm going to dry this. Okay, that actually looks really pretty. I kind of like that better than the reference photo, but I'm going to be putting water ripples and a little bit more with the detail and the fog and such, but that gives me a good base. So now I am going to, I need to get more orange though. So let's actually, I'm going to make sure that's a bit more dry. I can tell this is cold when I touch it. That right there lets me know it is not 100% dry. Like if where I put water is cold, you can feel the temperature difference. Even though like it's not coming off on my hand, it's dry to the touch, but if I were to put paint over that, it's going to lift right up. Now, if you want anything to be a bit more orange than what I have, this is much more like neutral kind of. You can actually glaze orange, and I have some out, tempted to do it, kind of tempted not to because I actually like the softness here. You can glaze orange right over a lot of this and get a more bold orange. So maybe I will show you to do that. We'll see what we're at time-wise. Let's see, but now, it's still hot from the hairdryer, but I think we're gonna be okay this time. Let's go ahead and start pulling more of the red iron oxide. And I keep saying red oxide, whatever. You guys know what I mean by this point, I hope. Let's see. The raw sienna, red oxide, a little bit of white. So we're getting this peachy color. I'm going to get this a little bit wet so it flows nicely. And we can see where we want this definite. I definitely need some more water or white in that. That is not going to be opaque enough. There we go. I want more of this around the edges of a lot of the trees. But I have to have white or that orange is not going to show up enough. We've got a lot more here, so a lot more white. Let's go ahead and blend that first. Not this brush. This one will work. I'm just going to take this, get it a little bit damp. Too much water is going to work like an eraser, so I'm going to get it just barely any water on it. I'm going to smudge that a bit. Just going to pull that out. So pretty. I'm excited about this one. Okay. Now I'm going to start, actually I think I'm going to get more controlled now on my ripples. This needs more white. There we go. And I'm just smudging that around just a little bit. No, Now, if I have lines, I need them to look like where the ripples go. This is going to get covered with bushes, so I don't need that edge to be perfect. Okay, so let's go ahead, and I'll keep this out just in case. And I can, again, go over and make the red iron. I'm never going to get that right. Red oxide and the raw sienna area is like more bold. I can glaze over that later, but I need this to be opaque enough. I might have to turn the canvas to the side to get smooth lines. We'll see. It's always hard for me at certain angles here. So we're going to get ripples. Oh yeah, I need a lot more white. That is not even close. And that's too much paint on the brush. I can already tell that's going to be a hot mess. I need to rinse that and reload it. Sometimes when you spend too much time mixing a color, the paint ends up just this globby mess on the brush. Rinse it and reload it after you've got the color you want. Okay, there we go. And here, I can just take this brush, rinse the color off, and I'm going to take this with a bit of white or water and just pull it out so it fades, so it's soft. You can do the same on the ends over here. Just going to pull that out, and it gives me a nice soft look. And then I'm going to flatten out as I move my way back. I need this to be a bit brighter so that when I come back on top with the orange looks orangey. This needs to round off. A lot of this will be broken up once we get the foreground in. I'm just lightly going over that to soften it a bit. Going more solid and pushing harder. So same brush, but it gives me heavier brush strokes by pushing harder. This will all make look a lot better once we get the foreground in. Flatten out as we get out here. I'm going to switch to a much smaller brush for the ripples in the background. Up close, the ripples can be thicker, but when we move back, we want to thin those out. Like right here, I don't like how thin that one is. Just, you see how I make a couple of brush strokes? Don't overdo that. That is the biggest thing. Like, there's been a few biggest things that people do wrong, but it's a big one. I mean, maybe that's actually the same thing I was talking about before, though. It's just that the concept of over blending. Don't over blend. Okay, let's make a few of those a little bit lighter, a little bit more white. Hit the camera. Okay, I need to switch to another brush. Actually, two things. I need to start getting the water up. There's a little bit more fog back here with just white. And that I can do. It's actually white with a little bit of blue, but we're going to focus on the white. Right in here, we've got this fog. I'm just going to softly go over the edges. And this brush is too big. I need to switch to a smaller one. You look like you'll work. I'm going to make that again, just dipped it in my water so it's a little bit damp. A little bit too damp, but being that this was starting to dry, that actually worked out well for me. Happy accident. And I'm doing little circles to pull that up to get that misty look. We're just going to let that fold up. And again, if you look at the reference photo, this looks purple. It shouldn't be. That was just because of the way that I edited the photo. and it came out that way, but I knew when I painted it, that would not, like purple doesn't make sense that there's only purple right there. I don't like it. Where was that brush I just put down? I'm gonna pull the fog a little bit up in here. Again, this one, the starting bid is $75 if you're in the US and you want to buy this landscape. I don't do them too terribly often. Maybe I should do them more. They take longer, that's for sure, but it's definitely fun. And I'm not going to go as dark over here as the reference photo. I actually like it being kind of softer. Okay, what was I going to do next? We have those water ripples. I want to come back there with a few that are darker blue. We need to make more orange up in here. Now, the photo oversaturated the orange here, like by a lot, so I won't go quite as bright. There, when I say the photo, I mean my crappy Lightroom skills. Let's make it a little bit lighter in between the trees. Okay. Now I need to switch to a smaller brush. That is awesome, Jay. Said, my favorite painting of yours that I have is a small landscape. I still find myself staring at it. Yay. Was it the one I did in colored pencil? I don't remember. Like that's the first landscape that comes to mind. I've painted so many thousands of paintings. I honestly do not remember them all. It still shocks me when I look at my work and I'm like, did I paint? I mean, I can tell I painted that. I do not remember painting that. That happens a lot. Which brush do I want? I need small and thin. I don't want a liner. I actually would rather have something maybe flat and thin. Do I have a small flat? You're kind of small flat. I don't know if you're going to hold enough paint though, because you're too small. Oh, it was an oil. Oh, I think I know. Yes, I know which one you're talking about. I like that one. What was I doing? Okay, water ripples. So I've got white with my burnt sienna and, or I'm sorry, raw sienna and red oxide. Hey, I got it right that time. Well, I got part of it right. I'm gonna do some ripples. I need more white. I'm not sure where this photo is from. Unsplash, but I don't think that's the location you're talking about. I'm just going to put a few ripples. I don't want to go too crazy at this size. It would look really weird if I try to put too much in there. Is my Fredrix totally smooth? It shows some texture, but there's a difference because some of the Fredrix, like they have canvas boards that are not the watercolor. The watercolor is going to be your smooth one. I've got some of theirs that are like super rough that I use for the like heavy brushstroke paintings. I mean, it's got some texture. Not much. I'm not going to pull this all the way through, just a few in here, back and forth, side to side. Do not zigzag this. You have to lift your brush in between every single brush stroke. Okay, I'm going to dry that, and I'm going to start pulling some of the peach on it. So red oxide and raw sienna. And we're going to do a little bit of white, because I don't think that that's going to be opaque enough otherwise. Like, even though it's a glaze, I think I've got so much water, or the water is so thinned out. Yeah, this is much better. Okay. I'm going to pull a little bit more highlighting on that, even though it's not on the reference photo. I just think it'll be pretty. Just a little bit more in there. Okay. I'm going to dry that, and we can start on the foreground. Okay, so foreground. I've got a few areas where, like, if you wanted to sit and put every individual leaf, you can. On something like this, I'm going with a much looser style. What I'm going to do is take an old, like, this thing is stiff, like crazy stiff, and I'm going to make a mixture. So I'll do this with a paintbrush of black and, actually, you can just do it with black. Black and water. I'm going to pull a little bit of red oxide in there so it's a little bit more brown. Yeah, I like that better. And I am mixing a decent amount of water. And the reason that I'm mixing with this brush and not the brush I'm about to paint, I want this brush to be fairly dry. If it gets super wet, it just flops and it does not work for the technique I'm going to show you. This is too brown. More black. There we go. I'm going to throw some more water in there. Okay, I'm going to rinse that brush. Now, a little bit of water is fine, just not that much. On this brush, I want it kind of on the dry side. I'm going to dab it first on a paper towel. Now, what I'm going to do is put it down, push forward. Let me see if you can go a little bit closer. So, push down. The back of the bristles need to stay put. So we're not stabbing. Don't stab this. Push down. Let it glide forward. See how the back, these bristles didn't move. And now it looks like I've got all these little leaves in one brush stroke. Not, if you dab, you're doing a sponge toll painting technique, which is not what we want. Let it roll forward. Don't slide it. These bristles need to stay put. And that's what gives me the edge that looks like there's a bunch of detail that I did not do. And you'll get to where you can do this faster and faster the more you do this technique. Now, as you get down in here, this is going on the floor. Now we can dab down here. This can be more solid. We're just filling that in. If a little bit of the blue shows through, great. But see now, look at it, looks like I did all these little leaves super quick. This is one of those things, practice on a scratch piece of like cardboard or something to get the movement there, because the biggest mistakes people make when they do this is this. They keep gliding the whole brush. No, these bristles in the back stay put, rolls forward. These don't move at all. And then the other thing people often do is just this. That's fine when I'm filling in down there, but that doesn't give me the look of all these little guys. Okay, we're going to get a few more. I need to make sure there's no paint on my hand there. Towards the bottom. And then we'll define a few of these leaves better. But these are kind of the in the background ones. Fill the solid area. Okay, we're going to get a few branches on top of this. Whoops, hit the camera. So now I can rinse that. That brush, I am done with it. Oh, this looks so pretty. I'm excited about this one. Has anyone bid on this yet? Like this is, yep, we got one bid. Yay! Okay, let me dry this just so I don't accidentally run my hand through it. Okay. Now we've got a few little tree guys down here we're going to do. Now these tree little branches, I'm not going to make mine look like that. I want mine to look more, those look like the tops of trees, which not the look I'm going for here. I want mine to look more like little bush branches. So I'm going to do mine different because I am. That is my reason. Let me grab, I need one of my smaller number 1. Is this a number 1 or number 2? I want my number 1 liner. I'm going to start by making some teeny tiny little branches. I've got some sticking out over here. Lots of little guys. They're going to overlap. I want to get some variation. And then we're going to do a few little individual leaves. Some bigger ones in there, get some variation. And see, these little like additional details will really make a big difference. Like, yeah, you could leave it like that and call yourself Bob Ross, but we can do better. We can add a little bit more. People get mad at me if I say anything negative about Bob Ross. Bob Ross is great for beginners. I want you guys to do more. We can do a little bit more detailing. Let's get some longer, thicker blades of grass type look in there. We've got some little guys. It was funny. I was looking at, it was like the Museum of Bad Art or something, because I was looking for like examples I could show you guys on a future video of like things that don't work, things that just not looking so hot. But I can't just steal people's work off Facebook, obviously. I don't want people to feel bad. But these are like old. It's funny because most of the stuff, like when you go to the landscaping section of that Museum of Bad Art, you can look it up on Google. There's like a thing for it. Most of them are Bob Ross things that you can tell people, like students tried to do, or people were like learning to paint and they did an old Bob Ross. I'm like, oh, I know that what that painting's supposed to be from. It made me laugh though. I'm just doing some random little branches, little leaves, so I have more than just the spongy thing I did. It just adds that little something extra. And I want variation, and that's like the big word you hear me saying over and over again. I don't want all of my little branches to be the same length or the same width. I don't want all the leaves to look the same. Just variation. I mean, that gives you that more natural look. When things look too uniform, they don't look natural. That is really redundant. I mean, I'm good at saying things that are redundant, but that was a big one. There we go. Yep, that is it. Oh, I love this. Okay, let me sign it. Now you could, if we look at the reference photo, there's that hint of like shadows of leaves you're seeing in here. I just left some of the background blue poking through to give me that sort of feel. I'm not going to sit there and paint in all those little, like, don't do green, by the way. That color is not green. It's more of a light, muddy gray, like almost a burnt, or I'm sorry, a raw umber. It looks, when you look at the photo, if you look at the reference photo, you're like, oh, it's green. It's not. It is not. There's no green in this. But, I mean, you could kind of get it by mixing your blue and your orange and mostly black and probably wouldn't even mix white in that. That would give you a similar look to those leaves, but I don't think that that's going to really add anything to this. I actually like how it is now. Now to sign it, an easy way to sign your work, if you struggle with making your signature look like your signature, is to take your charcoal pencil and sign it like you normally would. You won't always have to do this. You will get to the point where you are so comfortable drawing, writing your signature at least. You can do this with your liner brush like normal. But now all I need to do is trace right over that. Now this painting will come with a high gloss varnish to whoever wins. So it'll look pretty. It'll look just like an oil painting. You can't tell the difference between my oils and my acrylics when I put them side by side. I genuinely, there are so many paintings I have. If I look at a photo of it, I have to go look up what I did it in. I don't remember. I cannot tell by looking. Yeah, Liquitex High Gloss Varnish is what I use. It's sticking on there. And see, now I'm just tracing over. Whoops, that has way too much water. That is not giving me the intended effect. Let's dab some of that off. Make sure this dries completely before you erase it. Erase the charcoal lines, or it will smudge. I've had that happen way too many times. Okay. There is the finished painting. It actually looks pretty. It's a little bit more orange, like it's a little bit more vibrant, I think, in person. Let me see if it looks better or more accurate on this camera. Yeah, that's more accurate. So there is the finished painting. Yay! I'm excited with how that came out. It was a long one. Not that bad, 9:30, so an hour and a half, but it's, how pretty is that? Like, I want to go there. I just want to be there. Okay, well, probably not. The trees, are you looking cold? I can't tell. Are you, no, you're not winter. You're not that cold. Okay, I do want to go there. Okay. Again, you can bid on that if you want to buy that. The starting bid was $75. I'm not sure what it would be at right now, but link is in the video description. Also, I have been at, well, those of you, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but for those of you who have been buying stuff, I put some new stuff in the last box, but I got even more stuff on Amazon Prime to put in, like little presents, so my mom, we call them mommy gifts. My mom gives me, and they're my favorite presents of all presents. It is the most random crap she finds on like Etsy or handmade stuff of like, one, she got me a worry wart that's like, actually, hold on. I can show you really quick what a mommy gift is. Now, I'm not as fancy. I can't be sending that sort of thing to you, but the concept of a mommy gift is something random you really don't need. And I have found a way, a lightweight thing that doesn't hurt the art, won't get mushed, that I could start including in these boxes. So I had, the last batch, I had some fun keychains. This one, it's still technically, but it's cuter. These are not. But this would be an example of a mommy gift. This is what my mom got me for Christmas. I think this was a Christmas one. So by a lady who makes them in California. He's super cute. He's signed and stamped and all that fun stuff. But like, mommy gifts are things no one needs, but everybody wants. So I found some, they're more party favor type things that I found, but I'm putting funner stuff. I don't know. It'll just be fun for you guys to open the box when you get your painting. I want it to feel like you're getting like a birthday present or a Christmas present, like just something a little bit extra. The next one of the sea turtle, I think I need to get sent out. You get the first trial of, well, you and I guess this one will probably go together or at the same time, but yeah, I'm excited. Okay, so again, if you are bidding, I'll show you. This is an 8x10 on a Fredrix watercolor canvas board. So, yay, so pretty. Anyway, is it weird to be like that proud of your own work? Okay, so now let's go to our questions. Here we go. Yes, Patreon. By the way, if you enjoyed this lesson and you want to follow along with more, I have stuff that'll take you from beginner all the way through advanced. I've got stuff for everybody over on patreon.com/Lachri. For as little as $6 a month, you get access to all over 400 lessons. These lessons are anywhere between like 1 and 3 or 4 hours long. Like, they're long. I think the longest, well, some of them are broken up. Some are like 6 hours, but I broke it up into 3 videos. But they're long, where I'm just walking you through everything to get that painting done. So you will learn a ton. Even if you are watching those videos, if it's not a medium you're working in, you're going to be learning about values. You're going to be learning about why I choose different colors, why I choose whatever decisions I'm making in a painting. And you can apply that to your own work. So it was a little $6 a month again, patreon.com/Lachri. You can sign up, instant access, all 400. Okay. Noctiscamma said, do you have any advice for feeling like you can't improve or regress? I reached a point where this happens. I try new mediums and it seems to be right back to where I was after beginner's luck. So there's no such thing as beginner's luck with painting. What happens, musicians go through the same thing. What happens is your standards were lower in the beginning. You didn't expect anything from yourself in the beginning. So you thought what you did was so amazing. And it was, because you're just getting started. Of course that's amazing. But it wasn't beginner's luck. There's no luck in this isn't like gambling or like Russian roulette. What is that game? The spinny wheel thing? I don't know. I don't gamble. But there's no such thing as beginner's luck with painting. It's that your standards were not as high. Same thing happens with musicians. Musicians will often be playing, and they'll be really happy with what they're doing. They'll go on tour with their band. Like, they get to the point where they're good enough to go on tour, and they're just like, why am I getting worse? I keep messing up. I'm making more mistakes. This doesn't sound good. That doesn't sound good. I used to be better. No. They got to where they were playing so often, they started recognizing the mistakes they were making the entire time. It is completely in your head. They aren't any worse. They're actually better. Their standards have raised from when they were a beginning. Beginner luck in art, not a thing. Like, it's not even remotely a thing, not even a little bit. It doesn't happen. It's just that you didn't have high standards for yourself. And as you've gotten better, which you have, because that's what happens the more you paint, your standards are just excelling faster than your skill level is. That's all that is. You're still improving. You're still getting better. But what's happening is you're recognizing now the things you need to improve. That's amazing. That right there is so much proof that you are getting better, because you are recognizing what you don't like. That's huge. When you don't know, when you look at something and you don't know what's wrong, you can't pinpoint why it's not, like, you're just, you don't grow. When you get to the point where you're like, it's not as good. Okay, now what I need you to do is pinpoint what it is. So you're saying it's not as good. What isn't as good? Is the drawing, do you feel like you're not drawing as accurately? Well, then you know now you know where you need to focus on. And trust me, your drawing is just as accurate. Like, whatever it is, you're not actually getting worse. You're recognizing mistakes you've been making all along. That is the only difference, I promise you. So that's exciting though. That's a huge step. That's a huge bit of growth there. Run with it. What you're picking apart that you're noticing, wait, stop, wait, hey. Chewing on his butt. No, I don't want to listen to him chewing on his butt. I don't want to tell you about it because I'm classy like that. But anyway, when you can pinpoint what it is you want to improve on, you're about to make leaps and bounds in your work. You're about to improve so much faster because you're now recognizing it's not as good as you thought you were. That's good. Huge thing. I see this happen all the time with artists. That start out and they're like doing this kind of terrible. I always saw this at like artists that would get involved in art shows that were essentially for beginners, people who were just not good yet. And they would do this whole, this is my style, this is as good as it's going to get, but they were also overly proud of themselves. They thought way too highly of what they were creating, but because they thought so highly, they weren't improving. They weren't critical of themselves. They're like, as good as it's going to get. I'm awesome. This is it. And it's like, that is terrible. You're not going to improve because you have the wrong attitude. You right now are at a place where you're recognizing something isn't as good as you want it to be. Now run with it. Now take it somewhere. Figure out what exactly isn't right. Forget the idea that you had beginner's luck. Forget the idea that you're getting worse. You're not. You're getting better and you're now recognizing it. That's why it feels like you're getting worse, but you're not. Not a thing. I should make an actual edited video talking about it because it's a very, very common psychological issue. Artists, musicians, writers. Any sort of creative outlet that can be judged subjectively is going to feel this way. The better you get, the more critical you are, and the more you notice mistakes, you didn't get worse. You're getting better, and that's why you feel that way. I know it seems so weird. Okay. That was a great question. I think that would actually make for a really good edited video. Cat's Art Pick said, so soothing just to sit and watch you paint, Lisa. So exhausted from the heat. Oh, how hot is it? We had a break. We had a weird break in Texas. Like we were like 20 degrees lower than usual this last week. It's been wonderful. Next week's going to get back into the high 90s and the hundreds, but it's been a nice break for us. No one wants to hear me say that. Let's see. Jason said, can you underblend with respect to being more impressionistic? I don't understand that question. Can you do anything? It's probably possible. But when you're being impressionistic, you don't really want to do a lot of blending usually. So I don't know how to answer that. Jason said, do you make a photo library of all your past completed work? I don't. I should, but I don't. I mean, most stuff has photo, but not even everything. I've done so many things for live streams that I forgot to take the photo before I shipped it. So many times. So, I mean, we've got the video, so I can look it up on video, but no, I don't. I mean, everything I do, everything since like, what, 2012, there's a video of it. So I've got that as a record on the date that I made it and whatever, but I don't, that would be a good idea. I'm not going to do it, but it would be a good idea. Jay said, it's like you suggested just enough of the detail for my brain to go, okay, I'll take it from here and turn it into leaves. Exactly. That's actually a better way to word it. It's you're giving your brain something to work with, but you're not, and actually I just saw something I want to fix on this. Now that I've looked away for a minute, I can see, I don't know if you can, let's see. Look right here. I've got this gap in here that I just don't like that much. A little bit. I want to fill that in, not a lot, just break that spot up a bit with some dots. Same thing here, it was just a little too uniform. Better, done. Okay, now it's done. Okay. DJ said, thank you, Lisa, for this relaxing landscape stream. I'm going to dream I am there in the painting tonight. Yeah, you and me both. Better than me. I had a dream. No one wants to hear about anyone's dreams, but I had a dream. A friend of mine broke into my house and I woke up like terrified. It was the weirdest, bizarre thing. I think it means I haven't invited him over recently enough. That's got to be what that means. Anyway, Flaming to the Moon said, we are all artists in training. Kudos to all who paint and grow. Most folks do nothing. Exactly. Painting is a lot of work when you're improving. That is so true too. We all are going to paint things that we don't like. We're all going to paint things somebody else doesn't like. I'll paint something that I'm like, this is the best thing I've ever done. And somebody's like, it's ugly, I hate it. I'm like, no matter what, you're going to get someone who complains. But the fact that you're taking those steps, the fact that you're creating something instead of destroying something like so many people like to do, or tearing other people apart, like that is amazing. That is a good thing. That is something to certainly be proud of. Oh, water. I forgot I had that in here. Come here, water. Yay. Okay, let me move this over. Whoop, knocking stuff over. I got too much crap on my desk. Nick says, join the bidding war. Yeah, what are we at now on the painting? We've got a bid for 100. And, oh, another bid. Bid for 105. Yeah, I do have a bit of a bidding war. Again, for those of you who are bidding, this is what you are bidding on. Oh, I'm excited. This is pretty. I need to do more landscapes. Let me know if you guys want me to. They take a little bit more work. I'm probably mostly, I take it back. I did see some landscapes I wanted to do with pan pastels and colored pencil, but do you also do digital art? I do. And I've got a few lessons over on Patreon on digital arts. Only like, what do I have? A flamingo, a macaw, a hawk. Did I upload the deer? I don't even remember. I need to start another one. I definitely want to keep getting some more. And I've been doing, so I was doing digital painting on my Wacom tablet, which I do love. Like that is going to be my preference. But the problem is not everybody, those are freaking expensive. Like it was worth it to me because it was a business related expense. I use it for my video critique so I can like circle things and show you guys what to fix and whatever. So that was a must have item for me. But when I'm doing the digital paintings now, I'm finding myself more likely to do it on my tablet, my Samsung tablet, because if you have an iPad or if you have a Samsung tablet, anything with that stylus, the pressure sensitive pen, you can follow this. You don't have to have a $3,000 Wacom tablet, which are getting. You want to talk about a company that I think is price gouging. I think they've owned the market for so long. You have to pay, God, what was it now? It was like $3,500. I could have it wrong. It was an insane amount of money for the tablet, but you can't use the tablet like it is. You also need to pay another like $500 to get the stand for the tablet. You can't use it without the stand. You can't use a stand from an older model. It has to be that one. Why wouldn't you just include them all together? Like, that just feels dirty to me. Like, you're trying to be like, look, we're not that expensive, even though really it's going to cost you about $4,000 to get this tablet. I mean, they have cheaper ones, but yeah, no, I am not happy with that. There's, what is it, Huion, I think has one. They've got one of their bigger ones I'm interested in. Right now, my Wacom is fine, but the moral of the story that I just went off on this tangent is not everybody, most people who follow me, most people are not digital artists. So if I can show you how to do digital art on a tablet, you probably already have. I mean, a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people have an iPad or a Samsung tablet or something with a pressure sensitive pen. You can do digital art. And so that's where I think a lot when I do digital paintings, I think I'm going to mainly be focusing on those. As much as I love digital painting on my big Wacom tablet, the screen is better on my Samsung. Like, it is so superior to the Wacom tablet. And it's just, well, I can take it with me. I can sit in bed and draw while watching my 48 Hours episodes because I'm an old lady who likes that crap. But, that's probably why I had dreams about a friend breaking into my house. Oh, it actually makes more sense now. But anyway, you watch that stuff and you have weird dreams. But I can sit and draw while, like, on my phone, have a show on my phone. I've got my reference photo with me. I can be in any room of the house. They're just convenient. If you go on vacation, if you're somebody who does that, I don't leave the house. I don't know what that's like. But you could take that with you. So I want to do more for sure of that because I think it's more accessible to more people than, say, the Wacom tablet, the Photoshop type digital painting. Let's see. Frog legs, what? Where are we? Oh, roulette, LOL. The other one requires, yeah, I'm not saying that word on it requires unaliving. What is, I don't remember what it is. Let's see. Good night, DJ. I think you've already left, though. Jason said, Lisa, how is your violin music going? I have not touched that violin in, like, well over a year, that's for sure. Like, yeah, no, there's just no time. I just haven't had the interest either. Like, I bought an amp. I bought cool stuff that, like, yeah, I don't have anyone I play with anymore. Yeah, I'm not saying I won't get back into it, but for right now, it's just not what my focus is, so... Yeah, I always say I'm going to practice. I'm going to start practicing. I'm going to start practicing because it'll take me a good month of practicing daily to get back to where I was at my best, at least that long. Because I haven't played in forever, so I'm just way out of practice, and I just don't feel like doing it. To be quite honest. 110 in Arizona. Ouch. Terry said, great lesson. Thank you. Thank you for watching. Nick says, not too late, place your bid on tonight's artwork. Yes, again, this is what you're bidding on. A pretty painting. There we go. Wait, there you go. Let's see. Noctis said, thank you. I have had this issue for so long, trying to figure it out and why I hit this wall. You're so right. Definitely psychological. I definitely have felt like my brain was broken. And you are not alone in that. Like that idea of I'm getting worse. It's a whole phenomenon. Like it's a very known issue. So you're not, keep going. You're getting better, believe it or not. Let's see. Nate said, yes, landscape is always great. We will plan some more. Am I planning to do any oil soon? I need to do some art lessons in oil. I don't do oils on the live stream, just the drying time. There's one I did once, I think. There is a way to do it, but yeah, I need to. I haven't done any in a while. I absolutely need to. I'm gonna do a surreal oil, like a surreal oil over acrylic. I need to paint a horse soon too. I need to go get photos of the horse, so that will be in oils. Let's see. Jay said, I'm curious about digital art only because it's easy to bring with me when I travel. Exactly. It is so, like, it's just my tablet and it's so easy. And for me, traveling is from my office to my bedroom, to the living room, to the studio. Actually, I wouldn't draw in here. I don't have anywhere comfortable to sit besides the easel. So anyway, Jason said, oh, when you showed the mother's gift, my mother's gift of the frog. Yeah, okay, fine. You can, fine, he's frog legs. You can call him frog legs. The Starving Artist Collective said, when all the questions are finished, current movies, TVs, books. Movies, no. I mean, I'll go see Deadpool, so looking forward to that. But there's not been anything I've seen lately that I'm even remotely interested in. TV, nothing. I haven't watched TV in forever. Books. What have I been listening to? Nothing good. Nothing worth even mentioning. I had a so I've got one friend who we always share like whatever books we're reading and stuff. And she recommended I read, or I was looking for a book and she's like, oh, one of my friends recommended this book. I've never read Smut before, but now I know what it is and why that will never happen again. And unfortunately, I bought the book with an Amazon sale, so I couldn't do a return because it wasn't through an Audible credit. And I tried, I'm like, usually with adult content, I can just skip over it and listen to the story. There was no story at all. Every sentence was a lead up to, it was the most ridiculous, pathetic thing I have ever heard. I don't understand. I don't even care if I'm offending someone who likes that crap. Like, I don't get it. I don't get it. Seek counseling. It was bad. It was so bad. So yeah, my friend, she still laughs at me for reading it. She's not going to read it now. She didn't know it was that bad. She likes the adult romance stuff, but not like this was, I didn't know it was, like, I've heard people toss that word around. I didn't really understand what it was. Like how extreme that was versus your normal romance. Whew, I'm not, they need warnings on those books. Yeah, it was bad. I'm never going to recover. And that was weeks ago. But I have not listened to anything good. I'm trying to think. I've been listening to the Iron, what is it? The Iron Queen. So that's the third book in the thing by, who is this? Julie Kagawa. It's okay. I've listened to him before, so it's not like I listened to that after the adult content book because I needed something that was for kids that would, you know, it's for your teenagers like 14 to 17 age that would not have that content because, oh my God, I'm scarred. I am scarred. I'm not going to be okay. But that one, it's good. There's not a lot of personality in the characters. Like, they're okay. But it's not amazing. Like, the storyline is cool. The characters are cool, but there's no, like, they're just dry, if that makes sense. Maybe I'm just warped because of what I had previously attempted. I couldn't finish the adult book. Could not do it. I tried because I'm like, I paid money for this. I'm finishing the story. There was no story. That was the problem. It didn't matter how much I skipped through. Bad. Anyway, move on. It was bad. Let's see. Tamara said, I just think your art is amazing. Oh, thank you. Let's see. Good night, Jay. Yeah, I need to find good books. I need something new. Like, I'm waiting for a few books I've read to come out, but yeah. Oh, no flashlights. Be careful, Tamara. Let's see. Anyone else now super curious about what that book was? I'm not repeating it. It was so bad. And it sucked because, like, at the beginning, I was like, oh, this sounds interesting. This sounds good. And there were so many holes, right? That was the thing that got me. It was so badly written because the whole point was really raunchy adult scenes. The storyline had such a, it starts out, she like, it's supposed to be like, I guess, old. I think they were elves or fairies. Yeah, there were fairies, but they weren't really. They were just humans that were fairies. Like, it was bad. But she is a woman whose husband had taken off, who was like a lord or something. I don't know. He abandoned her, and she keeps having to come up with money to pay his bills that keep coming into the house, but she's maintaining the house by herself and her two servants, who are like family, who she, you know, they're super close. Throughout the book, later on, though, it keeps going on how no one's touched her. She's like so excited if somebody hugs her. Ooh, she's all hot and bothered because no one's touched her. And so, wait, you were hugging the people. That's not true. But anyway, the whole point of the story is she's trying to earn money because her husband racked up a bill and they're going to lose the house, even though she's not seen him in 5 years or whatever. He left a long time ago. She's just living in this house as, you know, she owns it because she's the wife, but she's got to come up with the money to save the house. Why? He's going to do it again. Like, it was such a major plot hole. Like, she's doing all these life risking, being a spy and all this stuff, and to save a house that the husband's just going to get himself in debt. Like, it was so dumb. It was so dumb. I'm like, the women who want to listen to this, it was supposed to be set up like all the men are evil for the sake of being evil without, like, it was a very man-hating book, besides the main guy. And everything's not safe. And it was bad. It was so bad. Like, I can't, it sounds ridiculous what I'm explaining because I'm not telling the whole story, but it was just bad. It was such bad, horrible badness. And yeah, no. So yeah, it sounds awful. Where do I get it? Audible. Let's see. Yeah, it was bad. One of my favorite books, if you were looking for just a good book, is, what is it? The Bone and crap. Daughter of Ash and Bone? Hold on. Daughter of Ash and Bone by Laini Taylor. I think it's a trilogy, one of the best books. And if you do it on Audible, you've got Christine Vam, who is the best narrator of all narrators, even though she sometimes pronounces things wrong, but best narrator of all narrators. I can listen to her. That's actually why I'm listening to her tell the current book I'm listening to, because just her voice, I can listen to her talk forever. But I love her. But that is one of the best books. If you've not read it, so recommend it. Like, it is just so, everything about it is good. Everything about it is amazing. So definitely, that's my recommendation is Daughter of Ash and Bone. Ash and Bone, is that what I just said? By Laini Taylor. Look for Laini Taylor. Let's see, a couple more minutes to get those bids in on that painting. Let's see. Jason said, don't they put warnings about content on books? Sometimes, but sometimes no. You also have a weird thing that books of reverse harems. I'm trying to think, just in case someone's kids are in the room. I don't want anyone having to say something super bad. But reverse harems, which are so creepy because it's always like 16-year-old girl and 5 older, like, buff guys. Let your imagination go to the worst possible places with that. I've accidentally started those books. It's like, oh, return. It is the creepiest, and it's a really popular thing, and they don't always warn you. So I've started a few books, and it was like, I'm sorry, in what world is this okay? But anyway, yeah, really, some of these are, and they don't always give you warnings. So yeah, so I try to read the reviews, and usually I'll try to read the negative reviews, because usually there's going to be someone like me who was like, what the heck did I just read? Like, what in the what? Why did no one warn me? And so usually it'll be like the worst reviews to get a warning. I always look at those before I get a book. Not that I always believe all the bad reviews, but if it's going to be something that's like over the top, that seems to be the safest way to check. And I didn't check this time because it was recommended by a friend, but she hadn't read it was the problem. And after when I told her, she's like, oh, I probably should have expected as much, because that friend had also, and she told me the name, the book she had read previously, she had told her about, there were like demon animals that a human woman was doing. I'm like, really? You thought you'd take advice from the person who was reading that would be a good person to take advice? Like, really? But she's like, I'm never taking advice for her on books again. So yeah, anyway, let's see. Art by MB said, I'm thinking of getting rid of my website and I want to change to something easier for me. Any suggestions? I've heard Squarespace. Thoughts? Here's the problem with a lot of those websites. They're not yours. I mean, I don't like it because they're not yours. Something easier, can you do a website that is just like, I am a huge fan of WordPress because you can add as much or as little as you want and have something that works. So if you can do that, that would be, and you can get your actual own host, you can, I like that better than using one of those sites. That's me. Let's see. Fly Me to the Moon said, try reading This Present Darkness. Okay, are you being serious? Hold on. I don't think you're recommending adult content that is too adult for me. Let me write this down because actually, wait, my phone is here. I can write it on here. Hold on. Let me find. Who did I get a text? Whoa, Kyle, are you watching right now? I have not talked to you in forever. Aw. Whoa, that is a picture of you when you look like you were like 5 on my phone. Your profile picture is definitely out of date on this. Yay, Kyle. Okay. I'm sticking extra stuff in the box for him. He's a good friend that I have not talked to in forever. I'm excited to say hi. Anyway, oh, wait, I was writing down that book. Oh, wait, I can find it back. No, I can't find it in Discord. I won't be in Discord. Let me take a photo of this because I'm going to look into seeing if that book is going to be interesting. Whoa, that is zoomed in. Where was that? This present darkness. I will look into that. Okay, we are at 10:01. I get to go snuggle with my baby bird. That sounds weird, but yes, French fry is waiting for me. I get like an hour of baby bird time before he has to go to bed. Well, he'll go to bed in my hair in that hour, but whatever. It's adorable and I love it. So I will talk to you guys next week. Oh, you're here. Yay. Hi, Kyle. I'll message you later. Is that it? I think that's it. I don't know. Let me know if you guys want to do, I'm thinking maybe a pan pastel colored pencil landscape next week, since you seem to like those. I will say hi to French Fry for you. Congratulations, Nick says, to the tonight's high bidder. And oh, look, how funny. So Kyle, quick story, because this is kind of funny. Kyle, years ago, I was doing my surreal landscapes and like the scene inside a scene. And Kyle told me he thought I would sell my art better if I just did normal landscapes. So I think it's kind of funny that the only artwork that Kyle has bought for me is one of my normal landscapes. And I will never let him live that down. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys later. We will figure out what we're doing next week. I'm thinking of, maybe see about a pan pastel colored pencil landscape if I can find someone that would work well. And I will talk to you. Oh, Alora said Stormlight. Okay, Alora, don't you read books a lot? Are you who I think the same Alora I'm thinking? I'm taking a photo of that too. I am, oops, scroll. This is high tech here. Okay, I will see you guys next week. Bye.